Welcome to another episode of One-on-One with Mitch Lafon. I am your host, Mitch Lafon. Of course, brought to you by the Heavy Montreal Festival taking place August 7th, 8th, and 9th at Parc Jean Drapeau in beautiful downtown Montreal, featuring performances this year by Slipknot, Faith No More, Korn, Iggy Pop, Gojira, Bullet for My Valentine, and yes, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the 80s bands that I love so much, Lita Ford, Warrant, and Dokken. I do have 2 pairs of tickets to give away to the Heavy Montreal Festival. Head over to the One-on-One Mitch Lafon Facebook page to find out more. And of course, joining me this week, Bill Leverty of FireHouse. You will be co-hosting, Bill. Good day.
Good day to you, sir. And we all admire you soldiering on with your cold. We can tell you're feeling under the weather, but you still have the show must go on attitude.
That's right.
We admire it.
The show must go on. And what a great show this week. The one, the only, the voice, well, for me at least, the voice, David Coverdale of Whitesnake. And of course, back in the day, Deep Purple, talking about the new Purple album where he retakes some of those great tunes. And then on the second part, we've got Art from the band Everclear. Their new album, Black is the New Black, comes out April 28th. Pledge Music campaign, iTunes, the whole thing. Bill, you've been around many years. Have you toured with either band?
Well, we never got to tour with either band, but we did do a show with Whitesnake at Moondance Jam a couple of years ago, and they were just phenomenal. I mean, when you think rock star, frontman, incredible singer, incredible songwriter, one of the top ones that come to mind for me is David Coverdale. I mean, the guy
absolutely
just has the huge range, the incredible tone where you know it's him, and he's just such a great performer. And my memory, I've known Reb for a long time personally, Reb Beach.
Yeah.
And we're talking with Reb before the show, and he's just as cool and laid back as he always is. And I've I got to meet Tommy Aldrich. It was great. And Doug Aldrich was in the band at the time. And
right.
I've met him a few times in the past. Super nice guy. But seeing them play that stuff, it was just flawless. And they just sounded like $1,000,000. And the audience was just going nuts. I mean, it was incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, I got to tour or do a gig with Whitesnake, which is one of the ones that was on the bucket list. And haven't gotten to do a gig with Everclear, although they're an awesome band. I mean,
Santa Monica. Come on.
When they came out, man, they just sounded so cool. They have a really unique sound, and their production, I think, is really cool. Where, it's a very honest sounding record, but their songs are so well written and arranged that it just works perfectly. So,
it really does.
It's a great band.
I'm having some vocal issues today, but what I really find remarkable is as they hit the sort of 50 years in the business mark, David Coverdale just hasn't lost his voice. And his partner in crime at the time with Deep Purple, Glenn Hughes, also. Those guys, honestly, they must be robots, because how they haven't degraded at all, how they keep it so tight, so powerful, so many years later is remarkable.
Well, you're right. I mean, some people just are gifted with that wonderful larynx that both of those guys, Glenn and David, have. And I know that the work that they put into being able to sing like that, they have the natural gift, but that talent was developed hours and hours and years of study and working on it, and also the creativity that went into writing the songs that they put out there. Their body of work is just enormous, both of them. Speaking of David, I just like the fact that the guy can sing really low, and he has a lot of projection down there, and then he can also sing really high, and he's got a lot of projection. And I don't know, man. I mean, that guy is just like perfect to me. And then the latest record he put out, I mean, I don't know if you've seen, I'm sure you've seen the video, but that new video for Burn, I think that his singing on that recording is as good, if not better, than his singing back there when he was in his late 20s. He's just extraordinary.
How cool would it be for you as a guitarist to get to play a gig with David Coverdale?
Well, that's like kind of the one of the ultimate goals of rock guitar players is to be able to play in a band like this. So fortunately, two of my good friends, Reb Beach and Joel Hoekstra, are playing that gig right now, and they totally deserve it because they're both just phenomenal, exceptional musicians. They look really cool on stage and in the videos, and I know that that's going to be one tour this year that nobody's going to want to miss because not only the songs, not only the vocals, but those guitar players are just dynamite.
Yeah, I mean, and no disrespect to Doug Aldrich, who's great
he's
in his own right.
He's amazing.
But Joel on this Purple album, oh my God, what a revelation. I mean, he just sounds, it's just what he does. He's got that blues, rock, whatever you want to, he's got it. He's just got it, right?
He's got the magic, no doubt about it. I mean, we did a bunch of gigs with Night Ranger when he was in the band, and just such a great down-to-earth guy, just humble and hang out and shoot the breeze with you, and then to watch him and listen to him play, it's just like he's from another planet. He's so good.
Oh, absolutely. So why don't we listen to David Coverdale? Folks, you're going to have to, go get a coffee or whatever, because this is a long one, about 47 minutes. Once Dave gets started, he never stops, and I'm certainly not going to stop him because it's a privilege to speak to Mr. Coverdale. Here's David Coverdale.
Regaling them with story after story.
Well, it's because you've got such a rich history, of course.
Oh, my God. Yes. Coming into my 5th decade. It was really funny when I was working with Jimmy Page, and we were going, Jesus, how many generations have we played to? It's amazing. And I thank God every day for the blessing.
Well, you know what? Speaking of Jimmy Page, any chance you might ever work with him again?
Oh, we've maintained, a fabulous friendship, mutual respect, and I'm just really honored that I had the opportunity to work with one of my heroes. He's great. I saw him last. I went down for his book launch in LA. We had dinner and spent, a couple of days hanging out. He's just a beautiful guy. He comes to the Whitesnake shows when we play London. Haven't been able to get him on stage yet, but there's always hope. And God willing, I think he's planning to do something to surprise us all. Oh. He's just been really engaged with the final remasters and the special editions of the astonishing catalog that is Zeppelin.
Yeah, hey, there's a long history there too. So let's.
Oh yeah. I was truly excited to hear what he had in store for the graffiti thing. He's almost there, I think, and but I think this year you're going to see him getting involved in a new project. I think he's finally come to terms that what everybody was hoping for might not unfold.
Right.
And my heart goes out to him, because if somebody turned around to me and said, "No, you can't do Whitesnake," it'd break my fucking heart.
Oh, absolutely.
He treasures his precious, legacy, and understandably too. It's an astonishing legacy.
Yeah, I was going to talk to you about the Purple album, but let me just ask you about your legacy then. When you look at Kiss and they replace a couple of members, they go, it's fake Kiss. When Richie Sambora is not with Bon Jovi, it's not Bon Jovi anymore, and so on and so forth. You've managed to change players throughout the history of Whitesnake, and yet nobody ever says that's not Whitesnake. Why is that?
I have no idea. I don't really care.
Right.
It's not important to me. There was never a plan for it to be such a revolving door.
Right.
But it's how it's unfolded, and one of the things people are saying related to the Purple album, you can hear the extension of Purple by my writing for Whitesnake.
Yeah.
Through that. So it's a logical thing for me to have done this project, although it didn't appear that at the beginning. But as I'm saying to people, because I'm asked about the statement, is this, this it? You know, you're saying go out as you came in. But while I was mixing the project with Reb and Michael McIntyre, I started to feel like I'd come full circle. And it was a feeling of completion. And I felt really good about it, you know, rather than, I'm not daunted by the idea of retiring. I don't think I'll ever retire from music, but the idea of being Tarzan, doing Still of the Night, you know, it's already intimidating. I'm working out like a madman, you know, to build up stamina for what will be not Whitesnake shows are challenging, but adding Purple, Mistreated and all this stuff. You know, I want to be in tip-top form once we get out there, because I've certainly got the band to fucking, you know, to deliver without a shadow of a doubt, as you can hear on the record.
Oh, absolutely.
But I got to tell you, I don't look at my life as legacy. I really don't. It's just, I'm the least nostalgic person, you know.
Okay.
You know, I'm so happy. I've got an amazing marriage. My best friend is my wife. You know, my son's just gotten into the college of all of our dreams. My daughter, I can't tell you, but she's going to be getting involved with nobility next year. Are you fucking kidding me?
Wow.
Totally appeals to the snob in me. You know, I'm about to go on a world tour with a great band and with incredible fan support out there. I mean, Jesus Christ, it's amazing. Why would I think about yesterday or last week or 10 years ago or, you know, as I refer to myself, the Edith Piaf of rock? I have no regrets, you know? And a lot of the times people, oh, what happened? That was a great relationship. I've always had great relationships in my bands. You know, Doug Aldrich, I love and regard as extraordinarily precious the last 10 years of the stuff we created together. And, you know, the music we made together, the performance we did together. But, you know, we both felt it was time. It was amazing. You know, he was the only one. My wife and Doug were the only ones I told that I was communicating with Ritchie.
Yeah.
You know, yes, it was, you know, that was it. That's the, you know, our friendship. And he was initially on board with this, but, you know, to me, I completely support him wanting to go in another direction, do his own thing completely. I encourage people who work with me to spread their wings, you know, and Doug spread his fucking wings. It was glorious. And I, you know, delight in what we created together. Either one of the albums we made together, I would have been very happy had that been the end of the road, right. You know? And so there you go.
And his Revolution Saints project is fantastic. But let's get back to this Purple album. You did 3 albums with the band back in the day.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about when you first came on board, because the band was established, but then you come in and you do Burn, which many consider to be an all-time classic.
Yeah.
Just tell me a little bit about that moment in your life.
Well, I was had one's mind blown. Right. I'd never made a fucking record before. Yeah. First record I made was Burn, which is a breathtaking thought as far as I'm concerned. The band were amazingly nurturing to me. Yep. I am so incredibly grateful still to this day, and probably to my last day, filled with gratitude for the courage and bravery that they showed in giving this unknown geezer a fucking
give him a break.
Beyond the lottery, you know, because they started me on a journey that I'm still on. Yeah, I can't imagine when people go, "Oh, what do you think would have happened?" I don't play that hypothetical thing. It did fucking happen. Right. They were brave enough to give me this thing, and of course, Glenn and I are in constant communication. So I've told him, and I had the pleasure of working with Ian and Jon in Whitesnake, and they know how much I appreciated and loved them. But because of circumstances, I never had an opportunity to express my gratitude to Ritchie, you know, which sadly, you know, this whole thing was birthed out of tragedy.
Right, with Jon Lord passing away.
Yeah. But, you know, Jon and Ian, forgive me, Jon, you know, this is no diminishing of contribution that Ian Pace and Glenn Hughes. But for me, to stand between Jon Lord and Ritchie Blackmore was fucking amazing.
Yes.
To sit with Ritchie composing those songs, you know, and he's very insular, as you probably know. I don't know whether you've ever spoken to Ritchie.
I have not. He's hard to track down.
Well, he's more internalized. John was very gregarious, raconteur, bon vivant. He taught me, you know, I'm a working class, a rough diamond from the northeast of England. And he taught me grace and charm. Right. And, you know, and we connected beautifully. And I could tell John, without any hesitation whatsoever, how much I loved him, you know. Circumstances with Ritchie and I went from mentor and disciple, of course he was my mentor,
right,
to a very unsavory confrontation, and then really unpleasant rivalry, you know, with Whitesnake and Rainbow, until Whitesnake sold so many records that it wasn't even in the ballpark, you know. And I never ever thought about it again. So all of this that took place in 2012 began with a representative of Jon Lord calling me and then telling me about the diagnosis on Jon, you know, that he developed cancer, which was fucking horrifying. And then, you know, his question would be, Jon said on his recovery, would you consider doing something Deep Purple related? And I went, tell him I'm there for him. Just get better, you know? And of course that wasn't to be. So that was huge loss for me and for the world, you know? Huge. But it was an extraordinary time of extreme lessons. You know, initially when I got involved there, the intimidation was astonishing, as I don't know whether you can imagine, but it's very difficult to describe. But they helped me keep my head above water, and they must have seen something. There's no, you know, you think about it in more cold reflection and go, well, they wouldn't have given you the fucking opportunity if you didn't think you had the goods, you know. So, but it's still a breathtaking decision that they chose me to front the band, and I did everything I could to fly the flag of Deep Purple in the most respectful way, and did the best I could for the 3 years I was involved.
And 3 glorious years. Looking back on with the Purple album, taking songs that are 40 years ago, which entails, you know, it entails everything, different headspace, you know, your age, the recording techniques from 2-inch tape to tubes to now How do you approach songs that are 40 years old? And what is the approach? Do you say, okay, let's just make copies? Or do you say, no, let's...
No, it was, you know, while Ritchie and I were communicating,
right.
I'd already started digging out, you know, when he'd asked me to speak to his manager, and she'd said, would you be interested in doing a project with Ritchie? And that wasn't on my agenda. There was 2 things. One was when I got in touch with him, one was to commiserate on the loss of Jon,
right.
And 2 was to express my sincere gratitude to him personally,
right.
for that amazing opportunity. So, you know, I didn't have any dreams or aspirations, as Glenn will tell you. Glenn's been after me to do some kind of Deep Purple reformation for God knows how long.
Right.
And I'm fulfilled with what I'm doing, you know. And then I wasn't sure if this was going to be Blackmore Coverdale, which would have been very interesting to have done Purple, Rainbow, and Whitesnake, as I did with Jimmy Page, you know. That could have been very interesting. You know, it got as far as, would you want Glenn? Would you want Roger? And I went, well, I adore Roger, and I think he's an incredibly musical mind. He produced 2 albums for me, but Glenn's my fucking soul brother. And I suggested Keith Emerson as keyboards, you know, Jon and Keith were like the preeminent, you know, keyboardists of the 70s, and he's still an amazing player. And I think Jon Lord fans would have embraced Keith. You know, they had a very friendly, competitive rivalry back in the day. But I was already digging out these songs and going, Jesus, man, I was so naive. You know, I hope Ritchie's up for giving some of these songs a fresh coat of paint. And of course, then I'm going, fuck, he's not going to want to do any Come Taste the Band. Hang on, but he's going to want me to do some Mark II stuff, you know, whatever. So, but at the same time, I'm playing around with ideas, you know, and I thought a great transition from Blackmore's Night and the Renaissance aspect would have been this idea, this arrangement of Sail Away that I had. And to do it unplugged, because if you listen to the original, there's this big swaggering synthesizer guitar riff.
Yep.
And I'm doing this melancholy reflective vocal on top of this funk fucking rock tune. So it lended it, it just unfolded very naturally. And the middle piece is a small, modest, simple elegy to John, that piano melody in the middle of it. I loved Lady Double Dealer, and I always felt we short-sold it.
Yep.
We never explored, back in the day, Purple were incredibly quick in pre-production and recording. For some reason, for a powerful band, it was you'd get a phone call going, you're in the studio next week. Oh, fuck, And that's exactly how Ritchie said it would unfold. So Ritchie and I were like locked in. He'd had plenty of time to prepare ideas for what became the Burn record. And then, of course, we were touring in support of the Burn album when he said to me, we were flying somewhere, and he goes, we've done amazing with the record, because everyone breathed a collective sigh of relief that the success continued after breaking up such an incredibly successful chapter as Mark II. Right. So everyone breathed this collective sigh of relief, and I was just very happy to be on fucking board.
Oh, yeah.
And he said, but you watch, we'll get a phone call and telling us we're in the studio in 2 weeks and we'll be fucked. He said, that's the history of Purple. He goes, we make a great record, then we make a not so great record. Great record, not so great record. And so we were jamming like motherfuckers, on the Stormbringer, trying to get, creditable songs on that. But yeah, it was an astonishing ride, as you can imagine, amazing ride. And there's a lot of times I don't feel we explored, Gypsy, what a fucking great tune. One of the things that I did in Snaking It Up was orchestrate aspects. There's no way I was going to try to compete with Jon Lord. Jon Lord there's nothing to touch him. His sound, his left hand of the Hammond was very much part of the sonic identity of Deep Purple. No question at all.
Absolutely.
And he brought that into Whitesnake with him, God bless his heart. So I made the decision early on to focus on the twin guitars approach of Whitesnake and have keys, as layers. And I brought in an old friend of mine, a session player called Derek Hilland, who was a total disciple of Jon Lord and Wakeman, that kind of stuff.
That kind of stuff, yeah.
And he did so well. I said, oh, fuck it. Let's do the solo then on Burn. And I gave him some of You Keep on Moving. But really, all I did on some of the songs was just expand on what we had back in the day.
Right.
And all my players to a man said, fuck, these songs could have been written yesterday, which was very complimentary.
Yep.
And a true testament to, the talent that was my time with Deep Purple. These guys were fucking amazing. The work stands up, all we did was snake it up a bit.
And very well. I do want to ask you about Purple. You've had Ritchie, there's you, there's Glenn, there's John. The music has been around for almost 50 years, if not 50 years.
Yeah.
And yet the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame says...
not interesting, of no consequence.
Exactly, right?
It won't make any difference to me. In fact, that was one of the things that Ritchie and I were talking about, because, I think it was the first time they come out with these tickles. Oh, what do you think? And then there's a list of these, vote for this band, that band.
Right.
And I said to Ritchie, would you go? And he went, no.
No. But I was even going to take...
Well, that excludes me.
Right. But I would even take it a step further in the fact that there seems to not be a respect out there for Deep Purple. I mean, people talk about Aerosmith and the Rolling Stones, and yet Purple is as influential as any of those bands, and yet...
Mitch, my darling, I assure you, we're still making a mint from Deep Purple.
Okay.
Regardless of what it appears like. Most things are, that's one of the reasons I don't bother about this, that, innuendo, whatever. Right. Every year, we see significant royalty stream from work we did over 40 years ago, and which obviously is not from 40 years ago. It's what we sold last year and the year before that. Once, when the band talked me into doing Burn back in 2004, Whitesnake.com lit up like a fucking one of those hotel switchboards in, the old black and white movies.
Right.
Like, oh my God, what song is this? When I had the huge success in America, Slide It In and the big 87 record, nobody did their homework. It was fucking hilarious. I didn't have to talk about Purple in any breath. It was when I got back to Europe where Purple were staggeringly huge. The first question, 9 times out of 10. So, David, how was it with the Deep Purple? What? And I'd have to change gears right there and then.
Right there, yeah.
But, it's just not... and for, the current, with no disrespect, the current chapter of Deep Purple, you'd think that Mark III and IV didn't exist. But that's, for whatever reason. I have heard, by the way, that since I reached out to Ritchie, that several of the current members, who've been in other chapters, are very open to the idea, which so would I be, of all the surviving members of Deep Purple coming together, whether for a show, like Zeppelin did at the O2 in London, or a tour. I'd be more than happy to share a microphone, not only with my soul brother Glenn, but with Ian Gillan. I met Ian when I was doing the Butterfly Ball back in 75 or something, and he was a great guy, great to have a drink with, So I have no issues there whatsoever, In fact, that might have been what Jon was hoping to achieve when he reached out to me to do some kind of Purple reunion thing. I think that would be an immense thank you for the astonishing support that all chapters of Deep Purple have received from an incredibly loyal fan base.
Listen, just mentioning it to me on the phone right now, it's given me goosebumps. So
you got a boner?
Yeah, well, not that far, but boy, that would definitely be the tour of whatever year it happens to happen. That would be fantastic.
It'd be a lot of fun. Well, don't, as I say, that God knows if that would happen.
Right.
But it would be. I'm certainly down for that, and Ritchie showing more enthusiasm to play rock and maybe embrace his legacy. There's who knows. It's like Mr. Connery said, never say never.
Yeah, it would be a shame not to see Ritchie back out there.
Oh, well, I couldn't. One thing I've always said, I couldn't do anything related to a reunion of any kind without Blackmore being involved.
Oh, absolutely.
Without a doubt.
I want to go back to the time in my life where Whitesnake took over everything. 1987.
Yeah.
That album, Whitesnake,
which I thought was a bomb.
Yeah, and listen,
not a bomb in a positive sense. I thought my career was over.
Yeah, that's what I want to find out about, because I had seen the videos on MTV and in Much Music in Canada.
Yeah. Are you Canadian?
Yes, I'm in Montreal.
Oh, sweet.
And
how cold are you right now?
It's about 17 Celsius, so it's not so bad.
Okay.
And it's sunny, so it probably feels like 20 out there. But listen.
Yeah.
81, 82, 83, we were overrun with Stray Cats, and Dio was doing his thing, and Ozzy with Randy, and Whitesnake, showed up on MTV every so often, but it just didn't
Oh, no. I
catch
think
on?
there was no schooling. It
Right.
was really interesting when I worked with Jimmy
Mm-hmm.
that he was utterly reluctant to do promotional videos. I said, it's the new thing.
Right.
I said, it saved Whitesnake 5 years of hard road work. And MTV, of course, became such a phenomena.
Right.
We already had breathtaking success at FM radio. So it was like, I always look upon it when I reflect on that as all of these elements coming together, the synchronicity of the time, my relationship with Tawny, my relationship with John Sykes, just things all came together in this extraordinary
Perfect
package.
storm. Right.
Yeah, it was, perfect storm, exactly. And, I certainly don't long for those times because it was very difficult for me being a more mature musician at that time, because I remember some idiotic fucking People magazine going, the most happening has been. I'm going, what the fuck? Like, I think I was 35 years old. Mind you, when I formed Whitesnake, I was 27, and the British press that was all punk related, I was a fucking dinosaur at 25 or something. It was, go figure. So I learned to ignore a lot of that stuff early on. But it was just this amazing synchronicity at that time. Slide It In had really, I worked with Ronnie, and I, of course, have known each other for, God bless his soul, had known each other for years. Elf was on Purple Records.
Right.
We used to take Elf on tour with us. It was a perfect transition for Ritchie to take Elf and the beautiful voice of Ronnie into Rainbow. He wouldn't have had his own way across the board as he would with these guys who were like, oh, whatever you say, Ritchie. That was not Ian Pace, but that worked beautifully for him, obviously. But we really fucking scored at American radio prior to MTV with Slide It In. And Ronnie had invited me over. We did a change. I had him special guest me at Monsters of Rock in England. And Wendy said, okay, we'll give you our American tour, which turned out to be 6 shows. But in those 6 shows, I sold 180,000 albums of the Slide It In. And it had a life of its own. And I was it was Madonna and I doing the rounds, funnily enough, of all the radio stations. Like inevitably, I'd be walking in either just before her or just after her. And one of the scandals at that time was that Fleetwood Mac's follow-up to Rumors had only sold 6 million copies.
Only, right?
Yeah, indeed. Are you kidding? But I was, after this event, and radio just picked up on Slide It In, Slow and Easy, Loving a Stranger, huge. But the president of Geffen at the time told me when I got involved with the best manager I've ever known, Howard Kaufman, he said, before anyone tells you, we took our hands off Slide It In once we made our money back. I went, oh, thank you so very much. And
very kind.
Yeah, how very twatty of you. Anyway, what happened was with the ridiculous success of the 87 album, the eponymous Whitesnake record, that just took Slide It In, and I don't know what we've sold now, fucking 10 million or something ridiculous. It coattailed on the back of, but radio was ready for the follow-up to Slide It In. So that was the benefit, and what the bonus was, we made a kick-ass video of Still of the Night. It was the longest song that at that time people were featuring on radio, because John Kolodner did the worst fucking edit on the planet, because we didn't use a click track on the song. So they cut from my scream into the cello, and it was just crap. Thankfully, radio ignored it, but then it was between Whitesnake, Still of the Night, and the Cult's Love Removal Machine. I went, fuck, we have no chance. I was a huge Cult fan. and then MTV picked Still of the Night as hit clip of the week, I think it was called, or whatever, which guaranteed it 18 plays a day. And it was the proverbial wildfire, the beginning of I did all of those videos, Still of the Night, Is This Love, and Here I Go Again, within a 2-week period.
Oh, really?
It was, because I had to shoot these vids because I was going on tour with Motley on the Girls, Girls, Girls package.
That was a great package, by the way.
That was a lot of fun, yeah.
Moody, Sykes, Vandenberg, Campbell, Vai, Aldrich, Hoekstra.
Jimi Hendrix.
Those are some talented...
Oh, Hendrix didn't join me, damn it. No.
he was there for a week.
He's my muse, man.
In government, right? In the first band. But is there one that really is the Whitesnake sound?
No. I just can't engage that. Everybody that I've worked with, amazing drummers, amazing keyboard players, bass players, the focus is on the incredible guitar players, of course, but the other players have always been exceptional too. I think when after working with Ritchie and then seeing the sad demise of Tommy, I didn't want to go into guitar hero land, so I went for 2 great players, but not the archetypal guitar hero with Bernie and Mickey. Just very great. I really saw Mickey as a slide guitar giant, but I was pushing, I think, him to be something that he didn't really have the feeling to be, so lessons to be learned. You've got to want it to go for it, Well, for instance, when Whitesnake, the early Whitesnake, achieved gold status in England, I was hungry for platinum. And it's nothing to do with greed. It's an axiom that David Geffen taught me. If you can make $5, why not 50? Why not 500? Why not ad infinitum? And I look at that, as one of life's lessons. Unless you turn around and go, you know what, I'm quite happy with this. But I've always challenged myself as a musician, as a singer, from before Deep Purple. Right now, I don't feel like challenging myself. This tour is going to be quite enough, thank you.
Right.
But in terms of everyone's brought something to the party. Everyone. They've all brought, the blues stuff that Mickey and Bernie and I would write. I knew I had to change. I needed it. It's very much like me to go, wow, this is beautiful, but fuck, we have to get some new furniture. And that was, with the Purple stuff, I looked at it, and once I started dissecting and look at the elements that I wanted to use, the elements were so fucking powerful and secure, I just had to give it like an extra coat of paint with my guys, and everybody came utterly prepared, full of respect, and fucking, so there's no way I'm going to turn around and go, I prefer Adrian over Doug or Doug over... Everyone's brought something to the party.
Yeah, and I wasn't suggesting that I prefer somebody, but just is there one that
totally
sound? Right? Okay, because I love them all. I mean, Joel.
Look at the fucking songs look at the songs Doug and I wrote, and then I'll hear on a mix somewhere playlist, I'll hear stuff that I wrote with Adrian and go, wow, what a great fucking song. I had a very, very similar dynamic with Adrian Vandenberg and Doug. Great friendship, but Adrian's a much better chef.
There you go.
Yeah, fucking hell. Well, he lived with us for like almost 10 months, and would cook after we did a day of writing and stuff. Just great, great friends. Very gifted musician, very talented. I've been incredibly blessed with the amount of talent that I've... when we announced that Doug was moving on, you'd be astonished the amount of people who still want to come in and play Whitesnake music. It's a great guitar gig.
It really is.
You get to shine. Well, when Steve came in, he goes, "We're going to do Still of the Night, aren't we? Can we do that now?" So it really is a huge compliment to what we've achieved as an identity. that so many people, very well known, came after the job, but Joel was in place almost immediately. We just kept it quiet out of respect for his colleagues and the fact that there was a bunch of touring. One of the things that I do with my guys, because I don't want to tour all the time, is that I'll do 6 months and then take a year off to do a new project and prepare for the next year. And I don't expect my guys to be sitting around waiting for me. So I totally encourage Reb to work Winger, Joel at the time, of course, Night Ranger. Michael works with Doug in Steamroller.
That's right.
Tommy does his Yamaha drum clinics. As long as we give these guys, this is the time frame we need you, this is the blah, 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 and then we all come together as a collective, and everyone is so fucking gifted, it immediately sounds like, and you can't deny, this sounds like a great fucking band, on the Purple album.
Oh, it sounds fantastic.
Really yeah.
And so that...
And you know what, and I've got to salute Tommy Aldrich, because Tommy, when he came in, this is perfect for Tommy. He's very much like Ian Pace, and that he's more of a big band drummer than a disciple of Bonzo, or and it's like it's tailor made for Tommy. I said, just bring it, bring what you do. I said, we don't have to back down. This is not for singles. This is not for MTV. This is not for radio. This is for us, Let's have a shitload of fun. And Tommy came in with such a fucking passionate, youthful energy. We all looked at each other and went, fuck, we've got to up our game,
And you did.
Reb
and
great. Michael and I, yeah. And everybody, but Tommy was the catalyst. He came in fucking like a Panzer division.
They said 20 minutes. We've doubled the time, but I just have to...
not a problem.
No worries.
I think you're my last... Yeah.
Yes,
I pick and choose who I talk to, and I think you're my last chap today. So go right ahead, love.
That's right. Keep the best for last, right? The Purple album is, a collection of songs that are...
I was going to say, you haven't actually mentioned if you care for it, or I don't know.
I do,
what
actually.
Do you think?
I really do think it's a great, like you
Sweet.
said, a new coat of paint, or whatever you want to call it. First of all,
the House of Purple stays the same.
Yeah, and I'm friends with Joel on top of that, and I think he just did an incredible
man, I fucking
job.
love. Yeah,
just really.
I love. Joel and I connected immediately.
Yep.
We flew him in from New York, all under the radar. He came from the Reno airport, bless him, straight to the studio. We plugged in. We threw some of the fucking basic tracks and went, do it. And he was, Reb and Michael and I looked at each other and went, holy shit, this guy's fucking on fire.
Yeah, he's great.
And it was so cool because he truly, and still does, we communicate almost daily, and he so wants this. It's palpable.
It
and
really
that's
is.
The kind of energy that inspire. I don't want people in the band who are not inspiring to me, to Michael, So that was a situation when Reb and I were sitting there, and Joel's just fucking scorching, as I was joked on the metal show, incendiary.
Yeah. And by the way, I have a passion for this too, so much so that this morning with my wife, we were planning our summer vacation around a Whitesnake show.
That's gorgeous.
Because
that is gorgeous.
The closest.
Well, actually, so am I.
Yeah, that's right. But the closest you'll be to Montreal is Hampton Beach, New Hampshire. And I went, all right, we're gonna get a hotel room. We'll go do it. But back to this though, new music. It's a tough sell in this day and age, this market. Are you still interested in doing new music? Will there be new music?
It's actually, let me tell you, because this is something that occurred to me. One of my closest confidants is Michael McIntyre, my co-producer. He's been with me almost 30 years. Love him as a brother, there for him whenever, we want nothing from each other than the passion that we bring to our work, a family and work. That's both of us. We have that in common. And I share lots of stuff with him. And I said, while we were mixing, I said, I'm having a feeling of this, my career has come full circle. And I'm feeling, listening to this, it's, I couldn't have sang these songs that I wrote and recorded at 21, 22, 23 years old. I'm not competing with the young David Coverdale. I'm doing the best I can on songs that I fucking love.
Right.
And I would never have sent it out if I wasn't, pleased with what we had. But I've always challenged myself, Mitch, always, from prior to Deep Purple, try to write better songs, try to sing them better, tell my stories with more poetry or more point, or get to the point quicker, come up with choruses that will resonate, beyond my experience, and share them with other people. Songs of love, physical loss, heartbreak, search for direction, which has always been predominant themes with me. But I found, when I was working with Doug, the reflective aspect of Forevermore and Fare Thee Well, I was going, I'm looking at my age and I'm going, even though the Stones and the Who have raised the bar to impossible to imagine, that they're still flourishing, and Jagger's 72, excited to be doing 15 stadium shows this year. I don't know till I get out there, but I do have a feeling that I don't want to challenge myself anymore. It really is exhausting, brother.
I can imagine.
It's
you got to keep topping your legacy. How do you do that?
Well, it's a situation where, as my wife said to me, just have fun, David. You don't have to prove anything anymore. If somebody thinks you have to prove anything, they haven't been paying attention. And then I'd reflect on what she said, and I go, I've been writing and creating new music with, waving the flag, the banner of classic rock, blues, soul for over 40 years, and I'm very proud of what I've achieved. And Whitesnake is an incredibly successful catalog band. Last year, catalog albums sold more than new records. It is my decision has got nothing related to the upside down world that exists now in the music business. That's got nothing to do with it. It's stepping down. I want to see how well I do, whether, I'm not saying that this is my farewell tour. Who knows? This might recharge the fuck out of me. I thought Good to Be Bad was going to be my last album. Then fucking Forevermore topped that. I'm going, duh, go figure. But it's not, I've got fucking ideas at the yin yang, ideas that Reb and I were jamming on away from the project. And Joel, when he came in, I saw him on the metal show recently, and I went, wow, what was the thing you were playing on the Strat, that middle thing? He went, I don't know, I was just jamming. I said, I've got an idea around that. So all of these things, it's what comes as inspiration. There's a couple of projects that I've got tons of back burner projects, but I really want to do a blues album, which is not necessarily a commercial thing.
Right.
It's just something I want to do. I fucking
anymore.
love the blues.
Right.
And Joel impressed me so much with his layering of the acoustic songs on, and he does all the acoustics on the Purple album.
Right.
That I want to do like a greatest hits with maybe some new songs of, songs that I've got an amazing arrangement of Still of the Night, go figure. All of the rock songs I've been involved with were given birth on acoustic guitar.
Right.
All of them. And it's in my mind that I hear what I want the drums to do, or the big, John Sykes to play, or, it's all in the mind, But really, this was so incredibly intense doing this reflective album, reconnecting with my very distant past. And for instance, sitting next to Reb and Joel as they were doing solos on Burn, and going, Christ, I sat next to Ritchie when he did the original solo. Yep. I worked with Tommy Bolin on his stuff in Musicland Studios, of songs that we were recreating. And it's been an amazing journey. And I'm, who knows? Let's see what happens. But for me to take time out now, as Doug will tell you, I would allow at least 9 months for us to write a whole new project.
Or maybe someday there'll be a revisiting of the Whitesnake catalog.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. It would be, my what one would call like greatest hits and more, hits and misses, unplugged. It's something that I love the music so much. I love telling my stories so much. I did something with Adrian years ago called Stalkers in Tokyo. And I was really, really reluctant to do it, and then fucking truly loved it. Then Doug and I went out and did some unplugged stuff and were playing big rock things. We actually worked on acoustic versions of Judgment Day, Slow and Easy and stuff. And it was really interesting. And it won't be as physically taxing to me as the big loincloth and Tarzan chest beating stuff that I'll be doing in about 6 weeks, So that, I'm not sure that I'm quite done with what one would call the music business. But this might be, my fond farewell to the big arena rock stuff.
Right. Well, hey, listen, it's been almost 50 years. You certainly can't complain. Right.
No, and that's when people turn around and go, oh, God, I was so disappointed. The well must have run dry. Fuck off. How dare you? So what have you fucking done over the last 40 years, if indeed you're 40? Right. I have, what the hell? If people think I have anything to prove, then they can, whatever. What is the old thing? Go forth and multiply.
Yeah.
Or fuck off.
I've being a fan for the last 35 years or whatever it's been, I don't think you have anything to prove, quite frankly.
Other than to myself, let me quote my wife, who is my best friend. What have you got to prove anymore after everything you've done? It really is. She said, it's time for you to have some fun. And that's one of the things that each of my guys will tell you that we had on this Purple project. Yes, there was pressure there because we were doing, some new pieces of music that are sacred to some, so it was done with entirely love and respect from top to bottom. But it was also a ton of fun.
I can imagine.
And that's superb.
But
I don't do comparisons. Everybody, has to go, oh, God, it's not as good as so-and-so. I prefer the early years. I so-and-so, so-and-so. Well, that's up to you. Don't come knocking on my door. I love now, and I love this project. I was working out to it this morning and thinking, oh, this is going to be fun doing this Treated after fucking decades of not doing it.
And this has got to be the best part of your career, because when you're doing the Whitesnake album in '87, you've got the record company breathing down your back and MTV and everybody. There's no pressure now. Now it is what it is, and if people like it, great, and if people don't like it, doesn't matter.
Yeah, precisely, absolutely. This is something that we wanted to do, and snakes have always been a creature that you take or leave.
Yep, absolutely. David, I could go on for hours and hours with you, because
Mitchell, it's been my absolute pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you and your missus out there this summer.
Oh, we're planning. We're booking our hotel today, so
bless your heart. And thank you for taking the time to talk with me.
And thank you. It's always been a pleasure. We haven't spoken in about 5 or 6 years since.
No, I know, and I see you on my Twitter account too.
Yes.
Always. All right, my darling.
Thank you.
Love you and your family. God bless.
You too. Now, bye.
Bye.
Thank you. There you have it, folks. My interview with David Coverdale. Bill, definitely a legend, right?
Oh, man, legend with a capital L. That guy's 50 years of being in this business and doing what he's done and sounding the way he's done for this long, writing the songs he's done. It just doesn't get any better than that.
No, it really doesn't. Of course, the new album is called The Purple Album, where he revisits some of his work with Deep Purple. Definitely worth checking out. Another thing worth checking out is the Heavy Montreal Festival, taking place August 7th, 8th, and 9th in beautiful downtown Montreal at Parc Jean Drapeau. Let's see, who didn't we mention for the last time? Within Temptation, Mastodon, Billy Talent, Meshuggah, Lamb of God, Slipknot, and of course, I will never fail to mention Lita Ford, Warrant, and Dawkins. Bill, let's move over to our second interview. Art from the band Everclear, great band that started in the 90s. They had a song AM Radio, which I really dig. Santa Monica was the big hit, and now their new album is called Black is the New Black. Isn't that a great title?
I think that's awesome. Actually, last week we put some pink duct tape. That's all that the sound company had, and I said, "Pink, really?" And then the guy said, "Well, pink is the new black." And so I thought that was clever. And then I hear their title of their album is "Black is the New Black." I'm thinking that is brilliant.
Yeah, it really is. I love it. And they're doing this album through Pledge Music, which I really think is sort of the future of the business, because it gets a chance to see, first of all, when you're making a new album, if fans care, because if people don't pledge, maybe at some point you got to say, okay, well, if people don't care, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. But mostly, if you look at the A World with Heroes KISS project, it couldn't have happened without Pledge Music. You had your project on there too. By the way, how was your experience with Pledge Music?
Oh, it was awesome. I mean, we did Flood the Engine project, and had we not had Pledge Music, that project might not have happened. But it gives the fans a level of commitment. Whereas at the record store, all you can really do is lay down your $10 or $12 or whatever for the CD, and then you can go to the concert and buy a T-shirt. But with Pledge Music, you have different levels of things you can buy. If you want to really support the band to the max, you might lay out whatever their top level is, and then you get a concert in your house.
Yeah.
And so it's all up to how creative the artist wants to be with that sort of thing. And the donations that you get really do fund the recording process, which is often the biggest challenge for most artists to get out their new music. So it really makes a big difference. And I think it is really a new frontier for us.
Oh, it really is. And a lot of people don't understand that, with Pro Tools and all that, you could essentially make a professional sounding record in your basement for no money. But then if you want to print up the CDs, then you're looking at $3,000, $4,000, $20,000. And especially for bands that don't have a fan base, new bands, there's no other way to get that money. And so Pledge Music gives people a chance to be heard. And I think it's just a wonderful, wonderful platform. And like you said, there's a whole new level of engagement. You want to buy a drum head that's signed, you want to get a special T-shirt with your name on it, or have the band do an acoustic show at a barbecue. You can if they've offered it, and you don't get that from back in the day with Geffen Records or Sony. You never had a band show up in your backyard and play a set, and I think it's made music exciting again, quite frankly.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you were a radio station, you could get that sort of thing. Well, now you don't have to own a radio station to get that. If the band offers that, you can have them come play your backyard. That's cool.
Yeah, oh, it's really cool. Absolutely cool. So let's sit back and listen to Art talk about, of course, the 90s, the band, the career, and the new album, Black is the New Black. Here is Art from Everclear.
It's been about 15 years since we spoke. The last time your single was AM Radio, so you can see how long it's been.
Oh dear.
Back.
Well, this is a new sound. It's a different sounding record.
Yeah. So let's talk all about the record and everything you've been up to. Now we have about 20 minutes, I was told, so plenty to cover.
Okay.
So let's start off with Black is the New Black, the album that comes out in a little bit over a month. You went back making this record the old-fashioned way, where you got the entire band in the same studio and just sort of let her rip. Is that about right?
That's pretty accurate. Actually, it comes out in 2 months. It comes out at the end of April.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, it basically, I have been wanting to make just a rock record. I just been like, I mean, when we play live, we're a lot more guitar centric than I think a lot of people think we're going to be. And I started writing on electric guitar as opposed to acoustic guitar for this record, and working very closely with. I live in LA.
Right.
And 2 of my guys live in LA. My bass player and my drummer. So we would go into our rehearsal studio and just bash out ideas. You know, I'd write songs, send it to the guys, just acoustic versions, or not acoustic versions, but electric versions that I'd work up, you know, of songs, and then we'd go in and work them out in the studio. And that's how we basically came up with the songs for the record. And went in the studio as a three-piece. I recorded most of the guitars, and I brought in Davey, and he recorded a large part of the guitars, and brought in my keyboard player. Not a lot of keyboards on this record. I don't know if you've heard the record, but it's pretty good.
Yeah, I have actually. They sent me an advanced link to it, and I was actually, I don't want to say actually pleasantly surprised, because that sounds like an insult, but I was very pleased with what I heard. Let's put it that way. I thought it was great. I loved what you did back with, you know, what do you call it? The American Movie Volume 1 and 2, and of course Las Vegas and all that. So, or the Vegas years, I should say. So no,
yeah.
Great sounding record. You went the Pledge Music way with this one. Tell me a little bit about that process, and is that sort of the wave of the future? Is it sort of, I don't want to call it self-financing, but is that the way to go? Do record companies really have a place in today's market?
I think they do.
Okay.
I think there's a combination of the two.
Okay.
I'm still trying to find that happy medium, and I think the fan sourcing of something like Pledge Music, which is different from Kickstarter, whereas we didn't finance the record. We already have the record made.
Right.
We're pre-selling the record. So
right.
People, instead of buying an idea or cashing in on an idea or pitching in rather, they're buying something that's done. They're, that combined with a small label like The End that we have that have a great relationship with, right. And they have distribution through Warner's, through ABA. So we have, I think it's the best of all possible worlds these days, I mean, if I've said this before, if you work a record hard enough, you're going to make more money and sell way less records. And it's not really about the records anymore. I'm sorry?
Oh, absolutely. I fully agree. I mean, I also did a Pledge Music campaign a couple of years ago to raise money for a charity, and I just think it's a wonderful process.
They're great people there. They work their butts off, man. They really do.
And they walk you through it too.
Yeah, no, it's a great situation. It's been a great experience, and we're doing really well at it. And it's going to bridge that gap of what a small label, they have the expertise, but they don't have the money. They don't have that kind of money. And even with Pledge Music, you're still not making that kind of money, but at least you're not going out of pocket. And you're putting a record out. It's a different animal from back in the day when money was shooting out of the ground. The major label salad days, as it were. Now instead of touring to support your record, now you're putting out a record to support your tour. And we do this tour every summer. It's going to be the fourth year in a row this year. It's called Summerland, right. And it's us and a bunch of other bands from the '90s that had big hits then and are still real bands today. There's not one of these bands that's sitting around waiting for royalty checks. All these guys and going out to play the hits once a year. This is it's not just a nostalgia thing. I think a certain level of nostalgia is healthy, right, and good. But these are real rock bands, and when you see us live, you'll get it. Toby's, Fuel, American Hi-Fi.
Yeah, I've seen the band live. It's a great show. Let me ask you about the creative process. When you're selling through Pledge Music, you really are selling to your established fan base. I mean, folks that love the band will seek you out. Do you now get to make the Everclear album that you want to make without having a record company saying, radio is not going to like that sound, or, does it change the creative process, or do you just make the record you make, whatever, regardless?
Well, that's probably one reason I'm not more wealthy is because I've always made the records I wanted to make
Right.
regardless. When we signed to a major label, one of the stipulations, it was really funny, is like, there's a bidding war going on. There's like 30 labels, and they're all, and I went to them and basically said, okay, I want this amount of money. And they're like, okay, that's reasonable. I want this many points on the back end. I want these incentives that if we do this and this, they're like, oh, this is reasonable and cool. And I want touring money. I want this many firm records and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, yeah, that's all good. And then I'm like, oh, yeah, by the way, I want total creative control, and I produce every record, and I have the last word on everything. And like 80% of the labels just went poof, like
Yeah.
smoke, just gone. Pass.
Let me ask you about that, because
labels.
You did A&R work for Capitol.
I did,
and you were in that.
And I had an indie label before Capitol, and
right.
I've had labels since. Yeah.
Yeah, and you signed Flip, which has Bren Aarons in it, somebody that we both know, great guy, Bren. Yeah, Bren's great. He did a song for this tribute that I was talking about for the charity, and great guy. But you were on that other side as an A&R guy, where you would most likely have to go in and say to a band, "Hey, I don't hear a single here." Is it hard for you? Was it hard for you as an artist to sort of wear both hats, having one side where you say, no, I have full control of my albums, don't tell me what to do, and then turn around and walk into a studio and say, so boys, this is what we're going to do?
Yeah, but I wasn't really like that. Okay. I knew even as an artist that you had to have I knew I had to give the label a song that they could work, or it wasn't going to work. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just about the art. To propel their art, you have to have a great song. But that doesn't mean I was going to bend myself into some weird human pretzel to make that happen for them. And I would never ask anyone to do that. I'd just be like, well, keep writing songs. When you come up with that song that's the spark plug for the engine, then let's go time. Then we go from there, And that's how I've always felt about it, is it should be an intrinsic, and I know it's a cheesy word, but it's appropriate, an organic thing of just, all right, man, you've got everything. This is a great record in of itself, but there's a song or two on here that are going to work at whatever medium that we're going to work it to. And, that was true with Flip, and that was true with every band I've ever worked with. I would never say, oh, you got to be more like this, because if that was the case, then why would I sign them in the first place? I mean, just if a band has that thing but hasn't written that song, that I'm pretty confident they will. You have to be confident that they will come up with that song, or you shouldn't sign it.
Yeah, absolutely. Did it give you any insight into writing songs for yourself? Did it affect you as a musician at all, being an A&R guy, or were you really able to keep the two things separate, or did somewhere in there as you're writing a song thinking, okay, as an A&R guy, what would I say to myself? Like, you know what I mean?
I do that anyway.
Okay.
I do that anyway. I don't think I had anything to me doing it as being a label guy wearing a different hat. But no, I've never really looked at it like that. To me, you make the album you want to make, and then you look at it as an artist and go, does this do everything I need it to do? And if it doesn't, then you got to keep working on it. It's not done yet.
So then Black is the New Black. What were you trying to do with this album?
I was trying to make a record that would, just a rock record that would scratch all the itches for me as a guy who's just grown up, from the time I was 3 years old and was singing Yeah, 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 singing Beatles songs in the shopping cart when my mom was pushing, at the top of my voice as my mom was pushing me around the supermarket back in 65, through the hard rock era of the 70s and the 80s, the indie punk rock and all that stuff. I mean, I'm just in love with guitars. But when I went to make this record, I was like, okay, who's going to play this record? Alternative radio is not going to play this record. It's too rock and roll. Active rock, they'll probably play this record. Does that really mean that much? I don't know. It depends. But to me, it's something. And I know my fans, I feel confident our fans will enjoy it. And fans that like 90s rock and who like rock and roll, forget about 90s rock and putting it in that subgenre. It's just rock and roll. If it's great rock and roll, I think it's going to sell. I don't know that it's going to be huge, but it's going to resonate with a large number of people. That's my belief. If I think it's good, I'm not that out on the fringe. Yeah. If I think it's good, other people will think it's good.
Well,
that's what I've always come by.
I've heard it. I've actually heard it, and I actually think it's great. I mean, I really think you've come up with something special. So I'm looking forward to seeing the fans' reaction to this. Part of the music is going to the Musicians Assistance Program, which is something that is set up by Local 802, et cetera, brings career and family counseling. Just tell me a little bit about your involvement with that program.
Well, Buddy's the guy that started it. Was an old school jazz musician.
Right.
And I worked on and off with him. He's passed now, but I worked on and off with him for many, many years. I've been clean and sober. It's going to be 26 years in June.
Congratulations.
And thank you. And I've seen what drugs can do to a family. Mm-hmm. And it's not just musicians. I mean, MAP, the Musicians Assistance Program, helps everybody. Also, I'm trying to hook up a Summerland tour with an organization that sends kids who can't afford to go to summer camp every year. And hopefully some of the proceeds will go to that, and we can get some sponsors to kick in on that as well. So, without trying to bang my horn, I don't bang my horn, bang my drum, blow my own horn. I don't usually talk about stuff like that, but I think it's important. I really do think it's good karma to give back. I think it makes the whole thing more human, because we can't do this by ourselves. We can't do any of this by ourselves.
No,
I can't make music by myself. It's, you worked on that benefit, and I work on benefits all the time. And I feel like it's just an important thing to do, not just as a band or a professional, but as a person. I give money to people. I might not be able to afford as much money as the next guy, but I'll give $10 a month to an organization that believes in the same things I do, or $25 a month, or a one-time gift of $50 or $100, or I give to political people that I believe in. It's just like any person out there. You get, sometimes in life, you got to put your money where your mouth is.
Oh, I fully agree. You mentioned that you're 26 years sober. Does it get easier with every passing year, or is it still as difficult to try to make it to 27, to 28, to 29 years?
I'm going to give you the stock A answer, because that's exactly what I feel. It's one day at a time, man. Right. Things get hard sometimes, and there's never a time where I think, God, I'm going to have a drink. That's never going to go away. But I know it's not going to be one drink. I'm not that guy. I'm not the kind of guy that can come home and have a beer and that's the end of the day. It's not going to end up like that. I know that. And as long as I stay present with that, my sobriety is going to be intact. And I'm going to keep learning and changing. But I'm an addict. I'm always going to be an addict. There's songs about that on the new record. I'm broken. And my brain works in a different way than most people. And as long as you're aware of that, and you go through that door of acceptance and knowledge and give it over to itself, you stand a better chance of living a sober life. And I've done it for almost 26 years, and I don't see it ending anytime soon. I went through the worst year of my life in 2004. I couldn't even tell you within 2 months all the horrible things that came down on me.
Right.
But I never fell off the wagon. And at the end of the year, I met the girl who's been my wife for 10 years and is the mother of my daughter and my youngest daughter, and just, you know, a huge shining light in my life. So it's, it's one of those things. Yeah, life's going to suck. And it's going to get better. And it's going to suck. And then it'll get better. You just got to keep pushing towards the light without sounding like a homework card. Sorry.
Right. But is it a constant fear or
no?
No. Okay.
No, I'm aware. It's a constant awareness. It's not a fear.
Okay.
It's not like I don't have control over it. I have control.
Okay.
I have control over whether I use. I don't have control over my addiction.
Right.
But I've given that to a higher power. Something bigger than myself.
Let me bring this interview back to a more pleasant topic. You, on the Vegas years, covered the song Southern Girls by Cheap Trick, and sometime in the last 5 or 10 years you performed that song with Cheap Trick at a show. You got a chance to sing with Robin Zander standing next to you. As a fan of Cheap Trick myself, what does the band mean to you, and what was it like standing in between Rick Nielsen and Robin Zander on stage?
Well, we actually recorded that song back in the 90s,
right,
for a Cheap Trick album that never, a tribute record that never came out. But through that song, I got to know Rick and Robin, and I played with them several times. We actually had the pleasure and honor to play with Rick and Robin doing a cover of Surrender that was fierce and just crazy for a premiere for a movie called Detroit Rock City, and we did a cover of The Boys Are Back in Town. But for the show, we ended the show doing Surrender, and Rick and Robin came on stage. I can't even tell you how exciting it is. It's just, man, when I was a kid, I was into hard rock and I was into punk rock. And back then in the 70s, you couldn't like both. It wasn't okay to like both.
You're right.
And they're one of the few bands that took hard rock and punk rock and Beatlesque pop and blended it all together. To me, they're one of the preeminent American rock bands of all time. I would argue that, Teddy.
I fully agree.
One of the better songwriters. He could get into personal stuff. He could get into political stuff and make it all just seem great. And Robin's just one of the best rock singers there is to this day. So I'm gushing. They're my heroes, as I assume from what you say they are for you too.
I love them. Listen, Cheap Trick, Kiss, and Aerosmith in the 1970s were the three kings for me. I mean, that was it. And then, the 80s and 90s and things changed. But in 1978, if you had put those three bands on a tour, that would have been all I need. It would have been over.
Yeah. I know. Well, me too. And we're probably about the same age. Me too. Throw Zeppelin in there and I'm set. Little Sabbath, not all Sabbath, but earlier stuff. It's just great. And I just was in love with rock and roll then and now. As a matter of fact, on the new record, there's a disclaimer inside that just says, this album is the result of me just acknowledging the fact that I've been in love with loud guitars and rock and roll my whole life, and I will be to the day I die. And that's just the truth of it, And that's why this record, not only was it great to make, and I can't wait to play this record live. Yeah. It's going to be fun. It's just a rock and roll record.
Well, I like I said, I've heard it, and it doesn't have the signatures of Cheap Trick, but it's got that vibe where each song was in the 3.5 minute range, and it's it seemed to me like the songs were constructed like a Cheap Trick song would be constructed. It was really well done. It was really well done.
Well, thanks, man. Well, I think that there's definitely some grist for that mill. I mean,
Yep.
you know, Rick and Robin are phenomenal, and they're definitely an influence on me. But early Aerosmith, like you're saying, Aerosmith to the '70s was phenomenal.
Really?
Those guys, just every album got better and better until the drugs took over, you know. But their first 4 records are pretty fucking amazing. Just amazing record. Rocks is just one of the best records ever made.
Yep.
And I just found out recently that, and I've always said that, and I found out recently that Kurt Cobain said that as well. That that's one of his favorite rock records of all time, which makes a lot of sense. And In Color and Heaven Tonight. I was in a cigar lounge yesterday, a bunch of old guys, and I could tell, like, on the screen it shows what the song is. They're playing it off Sirius XM or something.
Right.
And I saw Stiff Competition. I'm like, turn that up. I don't care if it pisses off the old Republicans or not. Turn that up. That fucking rules.
That's a masterpiece, that song.
I know. That album, Off Feeder's in. I mean, get out of here. That album I never get tired of it. My bass player, Freddie Herrera, is a huge Cheap Trick fan. He's like sold and bought basses from Tom before. I mean, he's that into it. And you know, him like about 3 years ago, we played an outside concert, I think in Sacramento or Fresno or somewhere, and Cheap Trick was headlining. We went on right before them, and I'm on the side of the stage just rocking out, and Robin like waves me on stage for Surrender to sing the second verse, and he's like trying to yell it in my ear. I'm like, get the fuck out of here! Like, I don't know the words to your song. Get out of here.
You probably know him better than he does at that point, right?
Well, I got to say something. This is a true story. When we did that song, when we did Surrender with Cheap Trick, we're doing it in sound check, right? And we're going through it, and Rick stops in the middle of it and goes, that chord right there, that's not right. That's not the right chord. I go, well, what is the right chord? And he's like, he played some weird open augmented chord, and I'm like, well, we don't play it that way. We play it this way. And my dad's looking at me like, what the? You're telling Rick Nielsen how to play Summerland? How to play Surrender? Are you out of your fucking mind? And Rick just kind of strokes his beard and goes, okay, cool. And at the end of it, Robin goes, dude, that was so punk rock. That's how that song should have been recorded in the first place. Just like that. Because I had always heard that they were frustrated with the sound of that record, that it wasn't pretty enough for them, that it was too produced by Tom Harmon.
Yeah. And then they had it redone with, who's that guy that redid it from the Sub Pop label? I forget.
Remixed it?
Yeah, they redid it in 2002. It's available on the internet. They redid it with, you know what? Here, hold on. I will look it up real quick.
Was it good?
Steve Albini. They redid it with.
Dear.
Yeah, they redid it with Steve Albini. And if you just type in color Cheap Trick Steve Albini, there are a ton of sites that have the album, and it sounds a little more, rough. It sounds a little more punk rock. It's an interesting alternative.
Then. I don't know that would have worked. Hey man, can you hold on just a second?
Yeah.
Please, thank you.
Yeah.
I'll go get the. Sorry, my wife.
Yeah, no.
Listen, I have to go get my daughter.
Yeah, I know. We've passed the 20-minute mark, so I apologize for that. If I can, let me just finish with this. You've done solo tours, all the time. You've done one recently. What are the plans for the solo career going forward? Is there going to be a solo album in 2015 or 2016?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how is that different?
I want to do more of an acoustic record.
Okay.
I don't know. I that's the idea right now. Right now, I'm not even paying attention to it, but I've been writing songs. still writing songs, but I'm focused on this record right now. So we'll see what happens. I'm sure if this record's successful, everybody around me is going to be like, no, don't do that. Turn that record just like this.
Right.
We'll see. I don't think that's going to happen.
Anyway, listen,
I try not to look into the future because it'll be whatever I want to do.
Okay. That sounds good. Now, I know you have to get your daughter, so I don't want to keep you anymore. It's been an absolute pleasure. Enjoyed everything, the Cheap Trick stories in particular, and the new album, Black is the New Black. It was great listening all afternoon. I had a chance to listen to it 2 or 3 times, and I enjoyed it. So, hey.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thank you very much for the call. I enjoyed the call, and good luck to you. Take care.
Thank you, Art.
Thanks, man.
Bye-bye.
There you have it, my interview with Art of Everclear. The new album is Black is the New Black. And, of course, David Coverdale. Before that, their new album is the Purple Album, reprising some of the best of Deep Purple. And, of course, this episode of One-on-One with Mitch Lafon is brought to you by the Heavy Montreal Festival, this year featuring Slipknot, Faith No More, Korn, Iggy Pop, Gojira, Lita Ford, Warrant, Dokken, and many, many more. It takes place August 7th, 8th, and 9th at Parc Jean Drapeau in beautiful downtown Montreal, Quebec, Canada. And Bill, I would be remiss if I didn't mention you have new music, a song called Strong.
Great thanks for mentioning it. Yeah, I've got it available at your normal suspects, iTunes and Amazon, CD Baby, and so forth. And it's also on my website, Leverty.com. You click a button and you download it very quickly. And it's on Spotify, too. So if anybody has that, they can do that. And, I appreciate it. It's great to be on this legendary episode of One-on-One with Mitch Lafon. Thanks for having me and letting me be a part of it.
Oh, I love having you being part of this. You've always been very supportive of me. I think we mentioned that the last time. You helped out with the KISS project. You're helping out with the podcast and this. And we've done interviews. And this is great.
We go all the way back to that ice rink, man.
Yep, that's right. In, where was that? Watertown, New York. There you go.
That's right.
What a place. Okay, great city. Watertown, for some reason, is able to bring in all kinds of great shows. And you've got a show coming up in Mattawawa, is that how they say it? Ontario, with FireHouse on July 25th.
Can't wait to play that show. It's been a long time since we've been in Ontario, and to get up a little bit north of Ottawa, that's going to be really cool. They got a big festival going on, so I hope everybody will look into that and then come on out, bring the whole family.
Yeah, I've definitely got to come to that because July 25th is a big date for me in my music going or concert going career. July 25th, 1980, I saw Eric Carr at the Palladium with KISS, his first show ever. So here we are, what's it going to be, 35 years later? What better way than to celebrate it with Bill Leverty and FireHouse? Huh?
Oh, man.
How's that?
Well, it's definitely an honor for us to have you there, and
yeah, that'll be great.
You
got to get to Canada
we're
more
try
often.
We'll try not to let you down. we'll try to do our best so that we don't miss any notes, so that you can say it's been 30 good years.
Oh, there you go. Well, you'll have to perform Deuce that night, just for me, just for the heck of it. Wouldn't that be fun?
I better start practicing right now. That's it.
There you go. And of course, we'll have to get FireHouse on the next edition of Heavy Montreal in 2016. Incredible festival. I think you guys would love it. It is on an island. You're surrounded by water, of course, being on an island. And 45,000 people show up each day. And it's 3 days of just everything and anything under the sun, celebrating music. Can't go wrong.
And I bet there's a bunch of Habs fans, and I get along with them just fine.
Well, because Habs fans are the better fans. We all know that. And should we play the Red Wings this year, we will eliminate you, quite frankly. Right?
No comment, because you're the boss of this show.
That's right. And what I say goes, well, listen, come on. You're not going to put Carey Price up against anybody. I mean, he's the king. So there you go.
Well, may the best team win. That's what I have to say.
There you go.
And
and of course, my dad loves the Red
Guy
Wings.
Lafleur.
Absolutely. Guy Lafleur and Ken Dryden back in the day lived near me, and I would see them often. Ken, in fact, lived a street over from me, and so we'd see him at the pool in the summer, and we'd see him walking around the block and all that wonderful stuff. One of the nicest gentlemen you'll ever meet. And this was in the 70s when they were winning all those Stanley Cups. And Guy Lafleur lived next door in a town called Bay d'Urfé, and he would be out at the supermarket, and you'd see him. And what was really remarkable when you'd see Guy Lafleur is, and I remember this clearly, would be at the butcher counter, and he would be smoking cigarette after cigarette after cigarette.
And could skate like that.
And could skate like, I mean, I remember very clearly one time my mom had sent me to buy hamburger meat, and Guy Lafleur was the customer being served in front of me. And we waited at the counter maybe 5 minutes, and he probably went through like 12 cigarettes.
Oh, man.
And first of all, you know, this was in the day when you could actually smoke in a supermarket, which was bloody disgusting. But I had that thought, because I was like maybe 11 years old, and I'm going, wow, he can play hockey like that and smoke, and wow. But hey,
well, my favorite Cornwallis story is with his cousin Pierre Cornwallis, who taught me at hockey camp. He was the skating instructor on how to do power skating and how to get speed going. And I guess it ran in the family because this guy was just an amazing skater, hockey player. He also taught me that when you go in the corner, you can keep your stick down, tap the puck, but put your elbow up, and that'll keep you from getting hit too hard. And I tried that with one of the other coaches when it was checking practice. And the coach demonstrated on me. Of course, I was like about 98 pounds. He was about 198 pounds. And I put my elbow up, and he didn't like it. So he threw an elbow at me and knocked me right on my ass.
Took us. There you go.
I stood up, and he knocked me right on the ice again. So I said, well, Pierre taught me that. It didn't matter.
Pierre Cornwallis. There you go. Hockey. So that's the great thing about doing these podcasts. You get David Coverdale, you get Art from Everclear, you get Bill Leverty, and of course you get hockey stories. So, there you go. The great new medium.
It's great.
Yep, absolutely. Bill, always a pleasure. And there you go, folks. Another episode of One-on-One with Mitch Lafon. And remember, check out Heavy Montreal in August. Cheers.
Awesome. It's a wrap.
It is a wrap.